Okay, Carrie, whenever you're ready.
All right, welcome. I will call to order the, wow, I dropped the selection committee for the field, designer selection committee for the field and track project for the Mount Greylock Regional School District. It is 2:13 p.m. And we're going to start with a roll call vote of the members of the committee, and then we'll go around and introduce ourselves. But I want to just take a moment to welcome our guests from CHA. We will be conducting that interview in just a few minutes. So from the designer selection committee on Zoom, Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brian Gill, and I am a phys ed teacher and coach at the high school. I've been there teaching and coaching track and field for 25 years. And yeah, I've come to really enjoy CHA's Williams track and field experience down there. So thank you guys for that. Yeah, I'm really excited about the process. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks, Brian. And then we have Joe Bergeron.
Hello, I'm Joe Bergeron, business administrator for the school district. So I'm involved in the day-to-day contracting, trying to make sure everything stays on time and smooth.
Thanks, Joe. Rob?
I'm Rob Nook. I'm the Director of Operations and Technology for the district.
Jake?
Jake McCandless, Superintendent of Schools.
And Carrie Green, Vice Chair of the Mount Greylock School District and Chair of the Finance Committee that has been charged with shepherding this project along. With us today from CHA, we have John Hickok, Project Manager, Ed O'Hara, Business Line Leader, and Charlie LeBlatt, Civil Engineer. So do you want to just take a minute, tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. I can just switch. Can we get that up on the screen there? Awesome. Perfect. So first off, thank you for having us. We're super excited about your project here. And but yes, I am John Hickok with CHA, as it said in the qualifications. I've been with CHA 25 years. That was my first and only job. Started in their survey group. I was a highway engineer, and about 18 years ago, switched over to the sports group with Ed, and I've been doing sports design for the last 18 years as a senior project manager and principal of the firm. So super excited to be here, super excited to be part of this project potentially, and I'll let Ed introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Ed O'Hara. I actually founded the sports group at CHA over 30 years ago. I've solely done sports the last 34 years of my life. So I head up the group. I'm actually here for two people that are on vacation today. Mike Moran and basically Jason Pollard. Those guys both have extensive experience. I will still be involved in this project. My background is agronomy. On a golf course, went to school for agronomy, and I've done over 400.
And I'm Charlie Labatt here from Gauntlet and Associates right in town. I've been in town here for 25 years working for Gauntlet and Associates and on and off for this school, actually. From trying to get a water line from the town out here to getting new wells for the school to assisting in permitting of your building project to being a part of the capital improvements concept design development 5 years ago to helping with some local site drainage issues and hopefully helping take that capital improvements project all the way to the end.
So you know everything about the place, so there's
Not exactly.
So we asked him what are the challenges, and he came up with like a list, like oh no.
So, okay. Yeah.
But we do have other team members that aren't here with us today. You know, they're listed on the screen there. But you know, we have electrical engineers. CHA is good, you know, a large firm, so we have electrical, mechanicals, architects, other sports designers, as well as we have OTO as our geotechnical engineer that we would utilize. We do that in house, but OTO's got a lot of experience in this area and we want to utilize them. So
So I'm just going to pause.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
introductions. I want to make sure that our OPM firm has a chance to introduce yourselves as well.
John Benzinger, Wisconsin.
Aaron Singer with Skanska.
And we thank you guys for being here. We do have one order of business before we move into your presentation, which is to approve the minutes from July 1st, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. And is there any discussion? The minutes are in the packet. I'm just going to assume everybody has looked at them. Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Jake?
Aye.
Rob?
Bye-bye.
Joe?
Bergeron, aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And Green, aye. So that passes unanimously. So thank you for that. And now it's all yours. So we've sent you 9 questions, right? And you had some time to look at those and respond to them. And that's what we're going to be viewing today.
absolutely.
All right.
So, per the directions that we got, there was 9 questions as well as, we have 20 minutes to present and 25 minutes for any additional question and answer. So I think we're definitely prepared for that. But it just, first, just remember, I obviously in the proposal, we indicated who CHA, we just wanted to remind it, we are a full service engineering architecture firm. We have a sports group. This is what we do every day. We, Ed and I, from a sports design perspective, design sports all day. We're not doing parking lots. We're not doing wastewater treatment plants. We do sports all day, which gives us that leg up. Also, we're less than an hour away. We're about 50 minutes over the mountain here in Albany. Ed and I are both home based there in Colony. Also our team with Gunlow Associates, OTO, we're a proven team. We've worked together on other projects right here in Williams College. So this isn't a one-off team. We've worked together before and successfully managed projects. We've also worked at 150 K-12 schools around the country. We've completed 175 track and field projects. And furthermore, we're members of the American Sports Builders Association as well as Sports Turf Management Association. But one of the ones we always like to say is we're corporate partners at U.S. Soccer Foundation as well. So we go around the country with the U.S. Soccer Foundation, building fields for them through their grant projects where they obtained a large amount of money when the World Cup was here. So we work on synthetic, we work on grass. We obviously know this is grass here, but soccer is always a natural grass sport. So we wanted to kind of bring that up.
Charlie? Gunlows, I kind of already touched on it. We're here. We've been in the community, obviously, a long time. Participated with projects like this through the college, through some of the local schools, Hoosick Valley, even much smaller versions, Alcombe Break Field and stuff like that. The college, we actually were involved with multiple versions of what is Weston Field when the first track field came in. And then was removed, or I should say turf field came in and was removed. And so we've been involved with a lot of that as well as obviously the local community from a permitting perspective. Most of the time we handle local permitting, even for the big projects, even when we're not the design engineers on it for the colleges and others. So we think we've got a strong background in this.
Now our experience was definitely in our proposal, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Obviously, that was the directions, but just the few projects that were in there, we've kind of put in here on some tiles. Weston Field being the one right there in the middle, and then bottom left there's a recently completed project, natural grass inside of a track in Orono, Maine, that we've at Orono High School in Maine that we just recently finished. So I'll move on from there. Your project, as we understand it, 8-lane track, potentially 6 lanes, but the proposal said, the RFQ said 8, and we'll talk about that potentially when we get into design and what the most cost-effective solution is. But high quality natural grass field, drains well, can be played on. We definitely have that experience to provide you with that and go through the possible options associated with that. Sports lighting, obviously LED is the big one today. We do probably 20 to 25 sports lighting projects a year. So we definitely have the experience to bring you the quality light and level of lights that you're looking for. Spectator amenities, bleachers, press box, things of that nature. We do at almost every stadium that we work at, and whether that's temporary on the ground or permanent, we can work you through that with our architects and making sure that it meets all the ADA standards. Irrigation for proposed field. We assist with got loads of help here because of the well situation and things of that nature. So we'll kind of be a team as it's associated with that. And then landscaping, obviously, at the end of the day, we want everything to be aesthetically pleasing. But some things that weren't in the RFQ that we'll definitely, if successful in this project, bring up, just track and field storage. How do we take care of that? That's a big component of track and field. If other sports are going to use this field, where's their storage go? Obviously, any design project is going to have access and accessibility through ADA that needs to be accommodated, as well as a track timing system. If you're going to, and potentially just infrastructure to support that in the future, so that we could, that can be included.
Current economic trends. I've been doing this for a long time, and this has been a pretty stressful last 2 years about where we are, not only the world, but in the kind of the sports world. The big key to this is early budgeting. We understand we bid 40 to 50 sports projects a year, understanding what things cost at the conceptual level. That's the most important thing with the economic trends. You guys need to understand that, this is where basically the things cost at the beginning of a project, so we don't go down a road and then have to circle back. So the other thing is, obviously, as the economy changes, we need to keep on going with those estimates and update that bleacher costs have come down a little bit, lighting costs have gone up a little bit. So we're all open and honest. We've bid a number of projects in the last 3 to 4 months on the sports world. Some of them have surprised us. Most of them haven't, because we talked to the lighting guys, we talked to the track guys. We know it's coming down the pike, but just being educated and bringing that to you, that's the most important. We keep our own database for estimating, so we know what all these things cost. So we do our own estimating, and basically we know from project to project where we're at. Contractor selection, that's another critical one, especially on a fast track project. These contractors are booking 6, 12 months out. The big thing is trying to get on their schedule as early as possible. So if we were successful with this, we would kind of walk through some contractors that are very good at building tracks and natural grass fields. And basically we would kind of walk you through kind of a qualifications program that you can have for contractors. Track is a very difficult.
We're gonna have to follow mass procurement. It's all gonna have to be final bid, or not final bid, but bid.
Yeah, we're familiar with that whole process on how we can kind of get qualifications in there to get somebody that's built tracks before. And we've done a number of projects in the state of Massachusetts where that's the case. So the big thing is letting those guys know that this project's coming down the pike, so they have it on their schedule. If we surprise it and put it out in December for a bid, these guys are gonna be booked for next year. So that's kind of the critical path on how we get there.
Value engineering was another question that came up, and obviously, as you go through a project, there's always that give and take. How do we keep the project on budget, on schedule, and still provide you with the product that you're looking for? And just a few bullets there. Alternative development. We're always talking about what do we want to put in a potential alternative, which that if you don't get it, it won't be a problem to the final product or the functionality. Product selections will walk you through that, first surfaces, things of that nature. There's always value engineering, and then actually you can't see this because it's an eye chart, but the upper right corner there is a track selection project or a track selection matrix that we've already put together that we can put in front of you for life cycle cost, as well as warranties, and longevity of that type of surface. But the last three bullets there, quality versus value, function versus aesthetics, and needs versus wants. Those are all things that we can drill down into so that we meet the budgets, and we've done that on multiple projects, and can help you through those processes.
Maximize construction firm interest. Again, I talked a little bit about that, but again, having qualifications that we can put in there keeps the qualified contractors interested. Qualified contractors are typically a little bit more expensive than somebody that hasn't done it before. If they know they have to bid against contractors that haven't done it before, they know on a price-based selection, they're going to be in trouble. So if we can basically sell to them, there are going to be some qualifications in there about doing a natural turf field, doing a track facility, they will stay interested pushing into the season because these guys will book and be booked up in the fall.
And one last point there, just bid early, but not too early and not during the holidays, right? So we want to bid early, but we don't want to go too early because then the volatility that's in the market right now could be a problem on the cost side of things. And then during the holidays, nobody's watching, right? So we want to make sure that it's not in that holiday, that Thanksgiving to Christmas window in the bidding process.
Natural grass selection experience, that was one of your questions in there. Again, that's been my background for 35 years. We have a whole matrix that we put together on natural grass selection. And really it comes down to playability and maintainability. We need to understand what your expectations are in a field. There's a number of ways you can go about it. You can strip existing natural soil and put it back. You can amend the existing soil. You can bring in sand. You can bring in sand and drainage. And basically it all comes down to playability. How we do that is, right off the rip, we'll test the existing soil, get out there to see if it's reusable. If it's not reusable, we may be able to modify it with blending some sand or organics in it to create a root zone that basically is usable and meets your playability standards. The next thing we look at is drainage. What types of slopes, what types of under drains can we install in that type of field to improve playability with the types of soils that you have? Depending on what type of root zone you got, dictates the slope you got as far as trying to get surface water off. And then the next thing we look at is turf selection. Developing a turf that's durable for athletic facilities, low irrigation, low fertilization requirements. That's very important for you as far as maintainability. We write a lot of operation maintenance manuals for school districts for maintaining facilities. So we understand both how to pick it and actually how to maintain it. You basically have two options here. You basically got a bluegrass or you've got a tall fescue. Those are really the choices in the Northeast. So we would walk you through the pros and cons of that. And then once we get to that point, then it's sod versus seed. What's your preference on that? And then lastly, how do we implement irrigation to basically either grow in sod or seed or long-term maintainability of it?
One of the questions was the interaction and oversight, during construction and CHA, the team that you see will be the team. We're not going to, all of a sudden have a construction administrator out here that hasn't been involved in the project. I was a project manager at Williams. I was there until the last thing was done at Weston Field and their tennis courts they just finished. So it's but typically we're a bi-weekly site visit to confirm things are going. But again, if there's a problem, we're less than an hour away and Gauntlet is less than 10 minutes away. They can jump out here and solve problems quickly in the field. We like to do milestone inspections, which we'll build in, and they're listed there. We like to see root zone before, in the testing of that before any of that sod or seed goes down. And then as well as the track asphalt, extremely specialized to get that asphalt right and for the track to drain correctly. So reviewing those survey grades and those flood tests are extremely important. And then the sod inspection. once that sod's down, did they do it right? And is it going to root in good and be a playable surface for you? But we would be here to do all those things.
If I wanted to get a reference for you, I could call Jason Moran.
Absolutely. Yep. Firm workload and availability, as we indicated in the beginning, we're a large engineering firm, but we're 1,400 people. So we have a large bench, but we have the 20 of us that are specialized in this field. That then we have all the aspects of engineering to support us and or architecture. We're available to start immediately. We have a little graph there that shows, a little bit of time in the first month, more time in the second month. We do have projects that are coming to an end that this project fits right in as like a glove for us. But we do operate multiple active projects at a time. But obviously, this, once the people are assigned to this project, those are the people that stay assigned and then go.
And we're available to start immediately. You say go, and our first business is getting a base plan up to date that conforms to what exists out there now. Since the school project, and we can start all of that immediately.
And then
This might be a silly question, but does Gunlow do the geotech surveying, or is that someone else?
No, we have a OTO that would be doing the geotechnical investigation.
Okay.
So they would be doing the drilling and preparing a report and any foundation recommendations that would be looking for, as well as supporting the civil engineering design of the drainage and the infiltration and things of that nature.
Yeah, and we may be staking out borings for them, or they may be just boring and we may be surveying them in so that we're putting them all on the
As a
base
team
plan,
member.
stuff like
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Gutlow's on our team as the civil engineer and as our permitting and our hydrologist. So as we get into, wells and things of that nature, that's where their expertise comes in, being able and understand the site. Project challenge.
Which is, actually lends right into some of the project challenges here. Availability of water, whose water, what water, how good is the water? How much water do we need? And that may become a value engineering aspect of every, can we afford to irrigate for 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks,
Mhm.
as in storage? As I mentioned way in the beginning, we tried to bring town water out here, which would solve all of these problems. That's water long under the bridge. So all of your water, as you know, is stored on site. Whether we capture that from the ground, whether we capture that from above, they all have complications. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges here. How do we, and at what level of comfort can we establish an irrigation system for this project? And what are the gives and takes of about how long the window is during the summer, maybe, of when we need it the most, and what we can afford to, to provide, the full amount we want to provide. We've got a fairly decent history of drilling around here. Not just your wells, but the wells immediately north on Sweetbrook's property. We drilled when the Clark was thinking of bringing their wax center out here. Some were good, some were bad. Even your wells, 2 wells were drilled. One was good, one was, had sufficient yield, one did not. Your existing water supply perchlorate, I'd love to, we'll try to involve the proper expertise and everything to guide us all into whether we choose to reuse them,
Are
whether.
you talking about the
we treat them.
decommissioned wells?
What's that?
Are you talking about the decommissioned wells?
Yeah, your
Okay.
2 currently non-potable, but were your previous water
Okay,
supplies,
yep.
20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, what is there a cost-effective way to use them as a
Mhm.
source?
Mhm.
Treat, all of these type of things. So I think that's one of our main challenges, the permitting, obviously, I think you've been through the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle has taken a couple of years, turf versus grass. I'm hoping we're past that.
Yeah.
And that the hurdles from the local community, from a permitting level, they're just steps in the process, and they're not really hurdles anymore. That's my hope, based on the history here, knowing the people involved and everything, and really now knowing what the project is.
Right.
I think they're just necessary steps, but they're steps that take time in this very short time.
Charlie, what permits will be required?
You undoubtedly will be required to amend your site plan and special permit that you hold for the site involved with the building. Essentially, because you'll be doing enough groundwork, you'll be disturbing enough earth that even if you never had a permit here before, you'd be needing to do development plan review. And if we fill or cut more than 6 feet, we'd have to do that with a special permit. You already have a combined special permit and site plan review, development plan review associated to this site for this. So usually any large project, even though this one is primarily site, you would just amend that permit to update the site plans, because it involves lighting,
And who approves it?
the zoning board. And then you may have to go to the Conservation Commission, depending on the extent of the improvements. I'll just say that, if we work to the far east, the wet field out near the road, there's some wetlands around that. If we work to the far north by the old track, there's some wetlands. I mean, I think they're minor, buffer zone, hopefully only, maybe there some minor impacts, but it's another step that we may have to go.
Project schedule, I don't think this looks much different than what was in your proposal, but I think, back to our team, there's no learning curve here for us. I mean, we've all worked in this community, we've worked together, and we think we bring the expertise to the table as a team that we really don't have a learning curve where another team may, from that perspective, if they haven't teamed with Gunlow and OTO before. It is an aggressive schedule, but it's doable. And I think that comes back to our horsepower that we have as a firm, as well as Gunlow, that we can work through your schedule. And I won't go through each one of these items, but we just kind of identified how we think the process will go. And as Charlie said, it's, you look at the permitting, it's 9 weeks, right? You really can't get into the permitting until you get through that schematic design process. So we need to get through schematic design and get the necessary testing done so that we can jump into that process. And then the construction documents, obviously, it looks like a long time, but it's because of the permitting. We want to make sure that we're not getting too far ahead of that permitting, and we're working through that. And then just from a construction perspective, it's 6 months to build a track. Okay, so it's 5 months if you have perfect weather, but it's and unfortunately there'll be a time where there's nobody out there working and people are like, what is going on? And it's that asphalt has to cure for 30 days before they can put any surfacing on it. So that really extends a schedule. So I just wanted to kind of, manage that expectation now, but it's 6 months is always a good timeline that we try to use. But obviously, that still lines up fairly well if we can get some shop drawings going in advance and get it go with your schedule of completion of the August date.
So I did the schedule, so I think the thought was to try to get contractors out of here before school started in the fall, but I don't think you're not gonna use the track in the spring.
Yep.
And you need 2 growing seasons before you use the field, so I think the back end could load out a little bit, right?
And obviously, we'll also want to talk about planting timeline, right? So if we're gonna seed, that's gonna affect that August date, because you really don't want to spray seed on a field in August, right? We want to do that in September. Now, if you want to do sod, beginning of September, early August, we get that sod down, and then it needs 6 weeks to root in, and the following spring you're on it. But those are all things we'll talk about from a schedule perspective and just understanding the grow times for a natural field. Yep. And then just there was a couple items when we that were in the RFQ and that were talked about at the walkthrough, just some things that are a little bit outside of the scope, but want to be looked at. We actually walked one of the fields today with Ed, on a natural grass guide. The field out there, it's kind of bumpy. So, trying to look at that, and then some of the drainage issues. And there was talk of, at least investigating, upgrading those lights out there to an LED system. There may be some economy of scale there, and we can look into all of that stuff for you as we.
You were on John Allen. You were on the football field.
Yep, the football field. Yep. And then just to wrap it up, why the CHA team? And maybe I'll pause there and I'll let, you know, if you can give us like 1 minute to wrap it up at the end after your questions, I'll hit this slide after that, if that's okay.
Great, thank you. And you'll send this to us?
I can email it to you.
That'd be
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Questions?
I wrote down a few. Charlie, you answered what permits are gonna be required. Are there lighting options other than Musco?
Yeah, absolutely. There's 3 or 4 other companies that are out there that can provide LED lighting, and we'll walk you through the pros and cons of those.
So we're not gonna be held hostage by Musco necessarily.
You're not held hostage by them. No, there are other options.
Charlie said they're gonna do the hydrology work. Okay. Qualified contractors in this area, you mentioned a couple times that you wanna put some qualifications in the construction RFP. Is there anyone, you know, in the general vicinity that you would consider qualified?
Yeah, I mean, probably the big ones that are around is Mountain View. You've got Rad, you've got Clark Companies, you got Shaker Flats. Those are kind of your 4 main guys that would kind of service a track and natural grass field.
So Clark would bid a job like this? I know they like to design build.
Clark would bid a job like this if they knew there's qualifications in there. They're not gonna bid if you just got open bidding to site guys that are building track. I mean, they can't compete with that, so. We're doing 2 tracks with Clark right now, so.
Is irrigation a must, given our water situation?
Irrigation is not a must. I mean, it goes back to playability and your expectations. Again, if you don't go irrigation, you gotta go tall fescue. Gives you a better chance at it. You probably still go dormant in the summertime, and people gotta understand that it will be brown in the summertime, but it will come around in the fall and in the spring. So it's an expectation. I mean, that we can kind of walk you through the kind of the pros and cons of.
My last one, not to dominate. So what are the first things you would do out of the gate? I think you kind of outlined that, but
Yeah, so I mean, right out of the gate, we want to confirm your program. You know what I mean? It is really what we want to do. Sit with your coach, and get that program established so that we can get you a footprint on your site out here and understand what the impacts of the site are. So that then, as Charlie's doing his survey and as our geotechnical engineers come out here, they're directed to a location rather than just kind of taking spot shots at something. We want to try to hone in on that, but kickoff meeting and then jump right into a programming with the stakeholders associated with the facility would be our first step. And then once we have that program thumbs up, that's where we want to go. We will always price that program as well before we draw anything, just because we don't want to put a program together and come back with a $6 million project, because that's not your budget. We want to put a program together, and then I start to even identify potentially some of those things that might want to be alternates at that point. So that would be our first step.
My one question was using program to VE the project, but you just answered that directly.
Yep.
You know, what can we get rid of as a school, and how can we take a sport out of the field area and still save money by having a successful project? Thanks.
Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah, I would just love some feedback from you guys just on your experiences with, I know you've made probably at least 5 or 6 tracks that I've been on, whether it's East Longmeadow or Agawam or Shen, just a couple that I saw. What are your experiences with porous versus non-porous surfaces in the Northeast? Have you seen them both succeed, or in terms of your track design and construction, do you generally go towards non-porous tracks in the Northeast?
We typically always go towards non-porous tracks. The only time we ever get into porous tracks is if we got groundwater issues. That is the only reason you want to do porous tracks, so you can actually let the water basically evaporate out through the surface and not bubble the surface off. It's our last alternative. It's not the best to be having water evaporate up and through out of porous track surface. So you want to do the best you can to raise the field up, put good under drainage in, get all the water out of there, and then put a porous surface on there where you don't have that interface. But we have done them.
You have a follow-up, Brian, or was that it?
Oh, I mean, I have lots of specific questions about tracks and design ideas, but I think that's probably, those are next steps. That's more visioning, I guess.
Okay, that sounds like the programming conversation. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, thanks. Joe, do you have any questions?
I think my only question, and maybe this is going down a rabbit hole similar to what Brian wanted to avoid, but within a design bid build in a municipal context in Massachusetts, do you have all of the experience that you think you'll need to help us craft the bid documents that do put quality over price in a way that will work within the confines of the state's rules?
Yeah, for sure. I think we could definitely work with you and work with our specification writers to identify appropriate qualifications that meet the Chapter 149 regulations and make sure that we're not overstepping our bounds there. But really the qualification basis that we're talking about is just you've had to build so many tracks. This can't be your first day out of the gate. You know what I mean? We're not trying to get it down minute to you had to have built this type of track with this many things. We're not trying to go there because that would definitely violate 149. So we want to try to keep it basic, but at least kind of get the guys that are trying to build this out of the back of a pickup truck out of the gate, out of the mix, and guys that have done this before, so that you end up with a quality product.
Awesome.
you.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian?
I would like to just ask if you guys have built any, I'm sure you've built I know you've built a lot of standard tracks. Have you built any of the less standard tracks, like a double bend, kind of broken back tracks, or have you seen many of those around?
We have done a few of those. The Hotchkiss School, we actually did a broken back track. And some people are very interested in them. We're working at Hartford University right now, and they're looking at doing a broken back. We obviously, most of the time, you're going down the broken back to get more stuff in the infield. So basically, we've got a number of different layouts that we'll look at, basically that can show you how soccer and lacrosse fits in broken backs and how they fit in traditional radius tracks. And that'll be right off the rip about how we go about that. It's all about what you end up in corner kicks on soccer. You know what I mean? Giving the people as much room as you can. The broken back is obviously the best for that. So we'll show you how the distance is between broken backs and traditional radius tracks.
And what kind of feedback generally have you gotten from the track people about those broken back or double bend tracks?
Typically, traditional track people hate them. Just because you have a really tight radius when you get to the corner. So when you're running, I mean, you do a tight radius, then you kind of widen out, then you do another tight one. So if you talk to true people that do 200, 400, they hate them. The only people that like them is the soccer coach who says, I get an extra 2 feet at the corner kick. But again, we've done them both ways. We'll walk you through the pros and cons of everybody that's involved. It's your selection. I mean, we're not opposed to it.
To host state level track events, you have to have a particular type of track.
Yeah, it doesn't, the radius of the track doesn't matter. So
The lane numbers,
lane numbers and lane widths will impact that.
right, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, sure, I'd love a standard track. I'm asking just a balance for our soccer coach, who I know would love as much width as possible and length.
Yeah.
Rob and Jake, do either of you have questions?
I did, but they've already been addressed. So
I'm good, Carrie.
Okay, all right.
Mention one more quirk about your position is I think what is foreseen as the location of this facility is obviously it's a disturbed site. You know, we have the survey before, we'll have the survey after, we'll be able to point to all of these guys to say, hey, guess what, all of this is fill or not. And similarly, it's not like we're rebuilding the field where there was a field. So I think it's unlikely our topsoil is really that great or any of that stuff through that whole stretch. And we'll be able to quickly identify that to the team and allow for that. And obviously, it ultimately, I think it'll end up being a nice challenge of what to do with a lot of that excess fill. It may be a natural amphitheater or something like that, where students and people can actually sit in the grass and watch an event, quite possibly. But it's one of the pros and cons about, where we're sitting right now in this whole building project and this field project on this site.
Thank you.
Can you switch the screen back on there real quick, just so that they can see the? Perfect. Thanks. But again, thank you for having us. We're super excited about this project, but we kind of always end on why CHA, and we believe, and I think our experience shows that we have unparalleled sports experience, and in the K-12 marketplace. Also, we're 20 people that do sports every day. That's what we do. We're not doing a water line and coming in here today trying to do a field project. This is what we do. We bring that expertise. Local service, 50 minutes for a sports firm that works across the country and has the experience that we have is awesome for you folks. And nationally recognized turf designer as well, right here to make sure that your field is the best. Proven team. We've demonstrated our experience with Guntlow and OTO, both at Weston Field and their recently constructed tennis courts. Been involved in those projects, 400 natural grass fields in the last 25 years. Bringing Guntlow in on our team was a no-brainer. When I first saw the RFQ, I said, I called Charlie within 5 minutes again. So it's they just have strong familiarity with this area and with the Williamstown permitting folks as well. And then we as a team, the familiarity with market trends and the market volatility to bring that experience to you and to as we're going through estimating and alternates, just being upfront and honest all the time. And, we always say things don't get better with time, right? So we like to bring things up that we see as issues right away, manage those expectations for you and your stakeholders. But last and definitely not least, we love what we do. Most of us on our 20 person group here all played sports, whether that be in high school or college level. We live and breathe sports every single day. And we just love what it does for a community, for a school district, for a college, just to get people outside and recreate. And we just love every aspect of that. And we hope that we've presented to you a good set of qualifications and that we would be successful in this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And do you want me to email that to you?
Yeah, if you send it to me and I can just.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll just leave you with a card as well in
Thank you
case.
so much.
Appreciate that. Yep.
Thank
Very
you.
nice meeting you.
Thank you.
We know-
Charlie, thank you.
Carrie, should we take a 5-minute
Yep, recess.
recess?
Yep.
And we'll.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Pick back up.
You want to stop the recording during that?
Yeah.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll convene back at 3 o'clock.
See you in 5 minutes. Joe and Brian.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
It's-
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, we're recording again.
Right, so we're resuming the designer selection committee interview meeting, and it is 3:05 PM. I'd like to welcome SLR to the table, and we'll start with introducing ourselves, and then we'll turn it over to you to introduce each of you and then your presentation.
Excellent.
So thank you for being here. We have a few folks from the committee on the screen. So let's start with Brian.
Hi, guys. My name is Brian Gill, and I am a phys ed teacher and coach at the high school. I've been there for 25 years. And I'm really excited about this project. As you can tell, it's going to be really important for us and super special. So I'm glad you're here.
Thanks, Brian. Joe Bergeron.
Hello, Joe Bergeron here, business administrator for the school district. So heavily involved in all the business contracting, project management aspects of things.
Great. So those are two of our members. One of our members is missing. That's our athletic director, but Brian is representing athletics and phys ed. So we'll start with Rob.
I'm Rob Woodhook. I'm the Director of Operations and Technology, and just keep the place alive and working.
Jake McCandless, I'm the superintendent of schools.
Carrie Green, Vice Chair of the School Committee and Chair of the Finance Committee, which is charged with shepherding this project along. So this is our OPM team.
John Benzinger, Wisconsin.
Aaron Singer, Wisconsin.
That's us.
Are we live on there, that presentation?
You will be when the time
Are you
comes.
ready?
Gotcha.
Well, we're ready because the first slide is our
Okay.
faces and the introduction.
There we go.
There
Okay.
you go. Perfect. Okay. Mark Aragoni, SLR, little bit of quick history. You said 25, I heard 25 years at the school.
Yep.
So you're looking at Mylon and McBroom, formerly Mylon and McBroom. We were acquired by SLR 2.5 years ago. We're all the same people. We went from MMI to SLR. So I'm 26 years with MMI/SLR. I'm the director of landscape architecture for the group. Spend a lot of my time. I opened the Springfield office shortly thereafter. We brought Mike Gagnon on, Springfield, Mass. I bounced between our Cheshire, Connecticut office, our Massachusetts office, and our New Hampshire, our Bedford, New Hampshire office. So sort of making the rounds around here.
I'm Kevin Fusilier, Principal Landscape Architect with SLR. Like Mike, Mark, both, I guess. I was with Mylona McBroom, so total of 16 years with the company. Really about 16 years ago, I just started specializing in athletic facility design, and that's been what I've been doing ever since.
Yes, first of all, Mike Gagnon, again with SLR. I am a principal civil engineer. I've been with the firm about 11 years, as Mark stated. Mark and I shared an office for a while.
Yeah, a long
when we
time.
But our Springfield office has grown. Really my forte, I do a lot of stormwater management as well as wetlands permitting in Massachusetts.
So as we presented, we have a pretty extensive project team. We looked at your project. We tend to not go after every project we see, try and be pretty selective. This is an area that we'd love to do more work in. We have done quite a bit of work in the Pittsfield area. We continue to do work in the Pittsfield area. This one attracted us not only because of the project type and Kevin's unique experience, especially municipal athletics, high school, that type of product and project, but just the uniquities of this one, having the hydrology, the well, we do our own in-house irrigation design. We do not sub that out. The civil engineering, the stormwater, we know it's probably a little wet down in that area that you had the existing sort of cinder track or whatever it was over there. Looks a little green right now. It's been pretty dry, so something tells me it's a little wet over there. The civil engineering side, the geotechnical engineering side to make sure we do the pavement design right. Whatever we design that track, we do our own wetlands delineation. So the idea is this was a project that we could use all of our experts or only those experts that we need to use. With the exception of an agronomist. We bring an agronomist in to understand turf grass. Turf grass is a science. We used to use a guy by the name of Bill Dest, who was my professor at the University of Connecticut, turf grass science. He has since passed on. We have now developed a teaming relationship with Irwin. And they really help us. You want to grow grass, we want to make sure we can give you the grass that you want to design. So that is a specialty that we bring on. And then electrical engineering. We're not electrical engineers. So when and if that has to become part of the project, whether it's hooking up the newly designed irrigation system, whether we have pumps or storage, we consider lights, new scoreboards, things like that, we bring on an electrical engineer, EDM out of Pittsfield. Again, local, we've done a lot of work with them, but that is our project team.
So just some experience in our RFQ. I know we showed you a bunch of our projects, but just some additional ones to talk about. You will see a lot of synthetic turf, but we know that's not part of the scope here. It's just a popular product nowadays in most municipalities. However, Bunnell High School down in Stratford, Connecticut, one of my first projects 15 years ago was redesigning the track and incorporating synthetic turf field. This is now the third iteration of that project that was recently completed about a year ago. What's great about this, new grandstands, new resilient track surfacing, LED lighting, which really shows you how far athletic field lighting has come nowadays. So this project just kind of encompasses a few of the elements we're considering here. This is a large park project in Middletown, Connecticut. All natural grass, new running track, full revamp of the park. Tricky soils, very wet soils. So what you don't see is a very extensive under drain system under the grass football field, under the grass ball fields. Lighting, grandstands, again, all the experts we have in-house were brought to the table as part of this project. Award-winning tracks. This is the reconstruction of the track at Yale University. So one of our higher level tracks brings in material selection when you get that high performance track surfacing versus a more recreational level. Obviously cost is a factor, but in the design process, that's a discussion we'll have and see what best meets your needs and your budget. We've done a lot of projects at Yale, again, mostly synthetic, but tracks, tennis courts. They've had a lot of confidence in us over the years and been using us since I started 15 years ago. Some more natural grass projects. Wolf Swamp is in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner. The construction is mostly complete on that. Now we're just working through turf grass management. We're meeting on site on Friday with Tom Irwin advisors.
Just a little quick ones on that one. So Wolf Swamp was an existing, we'll call it an athletic facility in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, public. They lost it. Maintenance, they didn't have irrigation over the last couple of years. Maintenance cuts, they lost the entire complex. They couldn't even use it. So they gave us a budget and they said we need to get as much as we can out of it. We did in-house irrigation. That was the city had drilled a new well. They had municipal water. They did not want to run the water off of, run the irrigation off of city water only. So they drilled another well and then they left the project. Then we got brought to some planning. Then we did the design for it. Ended up with understanding the yield on the well, still developed a storage tank and designed a sort of a split system. So they could always have to rely on the city system, but it's primarily used on the well and the storage system to irrigate this entire complex. They haven't played on this yet because we're not let them play on it yet. We're letting it grow in. This was all seeded, no sod on that one. And then to your question, as far as Camp Arrowwood, you can see Camp Arrowwood under construction, lower left-hand corner where they stripped the topsoil. We had to bring in a gravel blanket because some of the soils that we tested just didn't quite cut it. So to help with drainage, we are installing a 6-inch gravel blanket, I think is what we put down. And then in the lower right-hand corner, Kevin, sorry to step on your project. That's Ethel Walker's school down in Simsbury, Connecticut, natural grass fields, fully designed. I just wanted to throw that picture up in the right-hand corner. Those are the tennis courts at Camp Arrowwood down in Pittsfield. We love to try and find LID stormwater management rather than just stick things in pipes and underground infiltration systems. This we sheet flowed through a gravel infiltration strip. You can see right off the edge in the upper right-hand corner. And then it just simply goes into a bioinfiltration swale that has an outlet and a filter berm on the far end of it. This was all designed by Mike Gagnon at the end of the table. We have a lot of those on that Camp Arrowwood. Very wet site, especially down there. And we have full water quality, stormwater quality design on the upper fields too, that all went through permitting at conservation in Pittsfield.
And Wolf Swamp as well.
Yeah, surrounded by wetlands. Yeah. Hence the name Swamp.
The last slide I wanted to show you is we've been involved now with post-tension concrete running tracks. Post-tension concrete for tennis courts has become very popular because They don't crack like asphalt courts. So in the Northeast region, we now have a handful of qualified contractors that can do both tension courts and now post-tension running tracks. They come with 25-year warranties against cracking.
Very
So-
expensive.
They're becoming more competitive. The benefit you have between a court and tracks, and not to get into it, the rubberized surfacing on a track does a much better job holding the asphalt together on a traditional base. But when you have susceptible soils, or you working with existing conditions and want the most durable product out there, post-tension's an option, and it's something we can discuss, but it may not fit the budget, it may not be practical for the site, it may not be warranted. Because we have the geotechnical investigation, we're gonna be looking at all the soils. We will develop a specification for asphalt that will be durable and will last the lifetime of the surface as well. But just wanted to show you that we had experience with that. Mark, I'll let you speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice. I mean, I drove up from Connecticut. We have the Springfield office, but for a couple of years, I think it ended maybe a year or two ago, we did a lot, pretty much all the wetland delineation and third-party review for Williams College. I think you got some money from Williams College somehow to do this. So our environmental guys, Matt Sanford, I think you heard his name. He spends a lot of time up at Williams College doing some reviews. Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, years ago, we did the Mohawk Bike and Ped study. More recently, we've been involved in the reuse of the Berkshire Mall with EDM, who's our electrical consultant on that one.
What are you doing? What are you doing there?
Oh, well, we got lots of options. We got lots of options.
Side conversation.
Lots of options. Mike, I don't know if you, a little background on the Route 7.
Sure. So the Route 7 culvert replacement, which is actually right up the road here, this was a fast track project that we did with Mass DOT. Our in-house geomorphologist, Roy Schiff from our Vermont office. A big part of that project was a restoration of a stream. A lot of difficulties with respect to ongoing erosion and just the lack of resiliency in the existing crossing, to the point where Route 7 was getting flooded out pretty frequently. So Mass DOT looked at this as a very high priority project. My involvement was, essentially with a lot of the permitting. Mass DOT is exempt from local Wetlands Protection Act. However, we still had to go through Army Corps and water quality review through DEP because of the amount of soils that were excavated. But untypical of a Mass DOT project, it went very quickly and actually pretty smoothly as well.
So just to sort of round it out, Kevin seems to be the go-to person down at the Berkshire School for their field stuff. And then we've been working at Berkshire Soccer Academy, former Larkham Lake, whatever it was. A guy from New Jersey bought it and has been putting soccer fields up down there that we've been designing. Take it.
Yeah, I can take it. So we understand your project goals. It's the construction of a grass field that'll be suitable for multiple sports and physical education. Around circling that new field or that reconstructed field would be an 8-lane running track. The RFP said standard size, so we would have to understand what your goals are with that, because there's
I think we said new standard.
new standard.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine.
That was-
That's what we would encourage
That
to.
was intent.
Okay, it was new standard. Okay, but there's still a lot of different dimensions that we can use. We'll have to see what fits your site. But that's a good exercise at the onset of the project. Obviously, with construction of track, construction of the track and field and jumping event and throwing event areas. And then design of some ancillary items, athletic field lighting is a consideration, bleachers, a press box. And I know there was a question about mobility of that, and there's definitely options there, and a PA system, and then other regulated site amenities. What I didn't list here was ADA improvements. Anything new that we construct, or if we reconstruct, ADA is a must. We design for universal design, accessibility of any new facility wherever we go. And then irrigation. We think with a grass field and a properly constructed grass field, irrigation's a must. If you want to have a field that's going to last throughout the season, unless you're going to stay off it and just let it burn out in the summer, irrigation we see as really definitely needed for a high performance grass athletic field. Additional project considerations should the budget allow: irrigation for other campus fields. You have a beautiful campus here, a lot of grass fields. I'm not jealous of who maintains the fields because there's a lot of mowing out there. But it's beautiful. So irrigation, as just mentioned, all those fields can benefit. Regrading of existing fields, definitely. If you're going to be incorporating irrigation into them, analyze the existing shape and see how it can be improved. And then drainage of those fields. You wouldn't put it in there if there weren't some drainage issues. So those all will be looked at as part of the design process. So the scope of services, and again, it's really a summary of the RFP with a few extra bullets, but the investigation phase is going to be critical. Get out there, survey the site. Now, if we're talking about one field, now it's a certain area of survey, but if we start talking about additional fields, that's really going to increase the survey scope unless there's available mapping. Test pits. This one is not only for geotechnical, but for understanding the soils. Tom Irwin Advisors is going to want to get in there, dig up the test pits, understand the topsoil of what you have out there now, understand the subsoils, and our engineers are going to want to know as well, so we can design proper drainage. More invasive would be geotechnical investigation. That would be for press box structure, grandstand structure, field lighting. That's where we'll do deep borings to get deep down and understand the structural capacity of the soils. And then hydrology. This goes to irrigation. We understand that the current water supply comes from a well, and there's not enough water in that well to support irrigation. So this is a big piece because, you don't want to just go out there and say, put a well there, and Mike, maybe you can speak a little more to this, but we start with a desktop investigation, understand your well, its capacities, its depth, look at surrounding properties, see what their well data shows, historic data, look at the geomorphology of the area, look at the surface water, the pond back there, the water courses around. All this goes into the study to determine where a suitable location for a new well would be, what's going to draw the most, what's going to meet the needs of a new irrigation system or multiple irrigation systems.
Yeah, if I can chime in, one of the things, there is options to that if it ends up being a low yield well. I think as Mark had mentioned, there's might be opportunities where, as we did with Wolf Swamp, do we do like a cistern type system where, you have the benefit of being able to store some water so that during those peak periods when you need to irrigate, the water is there that's available. So, that's something that can be looked at as well.
Yeah, we were just kind of spitballing it. This is a new school. What happens to the runoff that the roof captures? Is there an opportunity for that? Is it already being collected? Is it already being reused? And it may be, but if not, is that an opportunity for a water source? You have a big roof here, a lot of water collection. So a lot of options and a lot to look at during that site evaluation phase. And as part of that phase, we're going to work with you right away and develop the picture, the big picture of what are we trying to do here? Here's the track, here's the field, here's where the events are going to go. So we'll create that conceptual design that we can all agree on. This meets the needs of the project. We can look at preliminary, numbers and budgets to see, are we really going outside the scope of what we can afford, or what can we make work? Once we have all that information, then we move into task 2, schematic design, or really preliminary design. This is a level of drawings that, if we have to go for regulatory permitting, that could be submitted. It has enough detail in there that we can really put hard numbers to and get a good idea of the construction costs. So, whether it's a 60% design set or, somewhere in that 50 to 70% range is usually how far we like to bring preliminary design, and really so we can hammer down that number and make sure that we're within the project budget, that we have a project moving forward. Once we have that, we go final design, 100% bid documents, construction documents, full technical specification package that covers every design element of the project, covers the specifics of the synthetic track surfacing, the lawn, the seed mix, the soil amendments, the soil handling, all the real finite details of the project. Then we go out to bid. And then with bid, we assist you with putting the project on the street, answering RFIs, attending a pre-bid meeting, and then once the bids come in, helping you evaluate the bids to make sure that you have
Are
the
you guys
best.
comfortable with 140, chapter 149? This is gonna have to be public.
Very. This would be a public works project, so we wouldn't be doing filed sub bids, hopefully.
Oh, you might for the electrical. but,
Yeah.
I don't
It's a gray area there. We have done it both ways. Agawam High School,
know. So you think it's chapter 39, is it, or?
no, 149 I would hope for, but public works project, you wouldn't have to do,
Okay,
filed sub bids.
okay,
Agawam High School, a couple years ago, we redid all their athletic facilities outside, stadium, track, synthetic turf field, new grass baseball field, new softball fields. They added renovation of the locker room,
yeah.
which tripped us into
Yeah.
filed sub bids. It adds a lot of work to the
It does.
project. If we can stay, no filed sub, that's the way we want to go. We will do everything possible. Bleachers, press boxes, there may be a way to stay out of it, and that's what we'll.
I was just gonna note, there's one person on our design team, John Hammer, and he's like the mad scientist of Massachusetts procurement. So he knows the ins and outs and all the details from numerous experience, and he's on the team and will be involved. We just didn't want to bring all 30 people today.
And if it does go that way, EDM is on our team on the electrical side. They're architects. If we have to go that way, we have a long history with them. It's been very good. So they are part of our team.
The last task listed from the scope of services is construction administration or construction phase services. And we believe a project with the scope that we currently understand would be our typical process for an athletic facility construction project. So that would be weekly site visits and meetings, progress meetings with the owner, reps, and the contractor. Response to RFIs throughout the project, typical submittal shop drawing review, payment application, if there's PCOs, change orders, review and sign off of those as appropriate. And then your substantial completion punch list inspection, followed by memorandum and final completion. Unless we got a contractor in here that we're all, really concerned about, but they met the qualifications. We've never really had to put on part-time or full-time inspection to.
We're gonna have Aaron will be the clerk.
And then,
Part-time.
yeah, with your presence too, it just makes the process that much smoother.
Aaron's very experienced.
And we have, I know it comes up in the questions, but we write our specifications, we have qualifications in there. That doesn't restrict an earth mover from building this project, but when it comes to certain things of placing topsoil, laser grading topsoil, track surfacing, specialty items, we put requirements in that force any GC to bring in qualified folks if they're not qualified themselves. And we've had good success with that. We have great relationships with the athletic field specialty contractors in the region. And we keep them up to speed on the project throughout the phase. So they know it's coming, they're ready for it. They can keep their workload open. And we,
So who might those contractors be?
so in this region, Mountain View Landscape and Lawn Care out of Chicopee, Liberty Landscapes, they did the football field most recently at Berkshire School. They're phenomenal laser graders, field builders. Clark Companies out of Delhi, New York. RAD Sports out of Rockport, Massachusetts. We just worked with Cork up in Amesbury. I don't know.
Cork and Amesbury, I don't know, but they're very interested.
There's another firm, Chenango, out of upstate New York. They're nearby. So there's quite a
Billings
few.
may come up here. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Billings, we've been impressed with them at Camp Arrowwood. So if they were interested as well. Not to say there aren't others. We're always looking for
Yeah.
new qualifying. So contract schedule, or project schedule, again, I cut and paste this from the RFP. What I added in there, here we are at the end of July. So there, obviously you have to make a selection. There has to be a contract negotiation. That's going to take some time. So to start design August 1st, to award the contract August 1st and start the site evaluation, that's going to be tight. In the site evaluation, I went through all those tasks. Can it really be completed by September 2nd? Probably not. Long story short, and we'll go back to permitting in a second. the design portion of it, that can be done pretty quick once you have that evaluation. But once we have it all conceptually drawn out, we have the site investigation data, we know what our opportunities and constraints are with that. PD to final design, I don't see that taking up much time. So can we achieve bidding by the first of the year? I think so, but it's that task 2A that we added in there that's the unknown.
I think there was a big question about that. I think the answer was we wanted to be on the street in January or February. So, what happens before it, the path before that we can negotiate. So,
Yeah, and I think that was a question, one of the addendums.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's been some discussion about permitting already. We saw the pond out there adjacent to the field, wetlands, upland review areas, disturbance in the upland review. Where does the water currently discharge from that facility? Did you have other?
Yeah,
the
no,
well?
and that's something, we can undertake a lot of the due diligence, particularly in the site evaluation phase. That's going to entail, wetlands permitting. We're going to do our own desktop review. We're going to look at Mass GIS data such as natural heritage. Is there any other trips, so to speak, that would require a review? But, I think with respect to wetlands permitting, as we did with Camp Arrowwood, we can be pretty creative in terms of how we issue or we submit to the Conservation Commission. And what we try to do is, if we can kind of track that with other tasks or do it concurrently, so that by the time we get issued an order of conditions, we're good to go for construction.
I think our familiarity with Williams Sound Conservation and the wetlands work that we did at the college, I think should help. It's not something that worries us at all, only when it comes down to timing and trying, are we going to get comments back through the permitting process that may impact the design a little bit? Are we comfortable advancing the design while we're in permitting, knowing that if there are some permits and we're advancing that maybe we have to have an addendum if we decide to go out to bid, if for some reason we get delayed on the permitting side, we'll have those discussions. Are you comfortable? If we have to put an addendum out, we'll put an addendum out during the bid process just to get it started. Because as you guys know, the bidding climate is strange right now for contractors. They're filling up their schedules for next year, the fall of this year into the winter, spring bid, they may be full. Nobody can find staff to work. So it becomes a little bit, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but they're being a little more selective. So we want to try and hit that bidding climate the best we could. And Kevin and I were talking earlier about, listen, as soon as we know that this project is really moving forward and we think we have an idea, well, we're going to get the word out to contractors and let them know, hey, keep an eye out. This one's coming. Don't wait. And we won't wait.
Yeah, so just looking at your construction season, it's great that you can start April 3rd. I think the earlier you start, the better, especially to hit, end of summer date.
Sky,
Well, it's usually,
it's gonna be dry here,
yeah, we're usually, because you don't have an existing
The water.
competitive track, that helps, I guess. Because typically we're seeing mid-June,
Yeah.
end of July, and get it done by the end of August. And it's like, that's challenging. And then just, certain aspects of it, we're already seeing, we had 2 track projects go out to bid last year, just resurfacing. One received 1 bid in Holyoke, the other received 0 bids. They went out in February, which is a little late. Pricing was very high, but it just tells us that all these specialty contractors, the track surfacers for this project in particular, they're already filling up their schedule next year. And they only have so much capacity. And as Mark mentioned, they have less laborers than they used to. And then material costs, that's a cost item, but long lead items, bleachers was mentioned, and press box. As of today, 8 months to get a bleacher or press box, a custom made one. And then, just on a side note, we just had our first 80-month lead time.
80 week.
80-week lead time on an electrical component, but to hear.
Think about that.
80 weeks.
80 months.
80 weeks. And it's like, it's just what you're hearing on a day-to-day basis. And, whether it's piping and whether it's, specialty surfacing material, whether it's fencing, it's ever
What was the
changing.
item?
A walk-in electrical enclosure.
Little
So
bit
I don't think we'll
specialized.
have that here,
Mhm.
but transformers, if you needed a transformer upgrade, you call the utility company. We don't know when we're gonna get them.
We're being told. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy time we're in right now, and it's hitting every facet of construction. So that was the end of our presentation. I just put the 9 or 10 questions up here. And we'd be happy to go through them if now's the appropriate time.
A lot of them.
Well, yeah,
I was just gonna say, we were curious about question number 3, though.
Yeah, that was a typo. It should have
We
been.
were gonna answer it. We'd be happy to answer that question for you.
What is the answer?
That was
Well,
our,
we have to have-
that was our question. So change that to contractor selection.
yeah. And so we did
Well,
talk
yeah,
about that a
yeah.
little bit, but like I said, for a project like this, we really just want to make sure that we get qualifications in the bid package, that you've had to do X number of running tracks in the past so many years. You have to have laser graded so many natural grass fields. And if not, you have to bring on a sub who has. And that's worked out really well. We've been doing that for at least 15 years. And we have gotten some parking lot earth movers that win these projects because of low bid, but they bring in a Mountain View, they bring in a Liberty just to do the specialty items, and the project turns out great.
Have you, like question number 9, specifically challenging aspects to this project, knowing what you know about where we are and the site that we're considering?
Yeah, and Mark and I went over this today, schedule. Again, it's to get that investigation done, that's gonna take probably 2 months, I would think. But doesn't mean it's gonna hold up other steps. And then the project can be expedited. So getting to that end design phase, permitting aside, I think that's achievable. And I think there is some buffer in there because you have a pretty long time from bidding to start a construction. You have a little bit of time. There's a little fluff in there. And then just dealing with the economic environment. And if there are going to be contractors looking for work, and if the specialty items are going to have laborers to do that work and the materials are available, those are 2 challenges. And then I guess permitting would be the other one. And that's for these guys.
Yeah, I would say that on the athletics programming side, will involve the virtual audience. The athletics programming side is always something, I know you guys have thought about it. Natural grass field inside the track. If you're plan on using that field, as soon as you can use that field, we automatically think, oh, irrigation. Okay, well, we need to come up with an alternate number for sodding it, right? You got irrigation, sod it. Sod, irrigation, you're on it. And, as soon as that starts to root and look good to us, you're playing on it. I mean, it's not synthetic turf. It's the next best option for timing to get on it. The other thing to think about, and we will think about, is when you start impacting other fields, say you have an outfield that's not draining on the softball field or something like that, and you want to fix it, that then becomes timing. So are you going to fix half that field? And then are we going to seed that field? And can you stay off that field for a whole season? That becomes the programming side of it. So I think it's great. If you're going to get a contractor mobilized, let's fix all the little issues that have been out there. But the programming and, okay, how long can the contractor have it? Can they have it for an entire season? Because the more constraints you put on a contractor, as far as timing and where they can store things and how they can access the site, that then just strictly reflects on their cost. So if the programming is understood, say, yeah, we're not going to have that field for, these 2 or 3 seasons, well, that's great. Then that contractor's like, okay, I can do it the right way. If you start to put them inside a box, they get nervous, cost goes up. So those are also things that we've dealt with before, and we'll have those conversations.
One of my questions was, why did Bunnell have a 7-lane track? I saw on one of your slides, it looked like it was 7-lane. Or is it just the perspective of the photograph?
Looked like 6 plus.
Yeah, it's a perspective.
It's a perspective,
It's an
okay.
8-lane track, but
Okay.
we've done unorthodox track configurations before. We've done non-400 meter tracks to fit a unique site.
Okay.
We've done practice tracks that are just a radius and a straightaway. So I've seen 7-lane, I've seen 9-lane. 8 obviously is the desirable. Some sites only fit an 8-lane sprint and a 6-lane oval. So
And then just not really pertaining to this 100%, but what are you seeing for resurfacing costs for 8-lane tracks? You said that you mentioned that you'd have like very.
So the one that we received a late bid on last year, and it's from a new player in the industry or in the region. We used to see for a base level red urethane coated track, about $40, $45 a square yard. This one came in at 67 a square yard. Removal costs might have been in that number, so assume maybe 100,000, but the price of urethane and EPDM rubber and even SBR rubber, the black base mat that goes under it. So I could actually speak to a sample, but the price of all the materials have gone up. So your standard is that first one there with the black rubber, which is ground up tire.
Yeah.
That's gone up almost 10 cents a pound this past year because that's used in synthetic turf as well. And then the top is coated with red EPDM rubber and coated with red urethane binding. So that one this used to be $40 to $45 a square yard was more like, let's say 55. So prices have gone up, and this just represents the various levels of track surfacing. And again, historic numbers, we'd be about 40 a square yard here up to Olympic caliber at like 120.
Okay, let's just hold that over then.
Talk
There we
to
go.
most track coaches want the 120.
What are your, like if you're proposing something for the school district here, out of those options that you've brought with you?
It'd be over in this group. I do like this is a spray coat system, so one's porous, one's not. Performance wise, they're both pretty good, but they're the economical choice. And you see the most of it, this style at the high school level. You go up to the embedded system. This is where the urethane's flooded. And then the red rubber is broadcast, so it just embeds into the system. Nice texture, a little more high performance, a little firmer, so it's faster, but still can fit into some budgets. So I do like this if this is an option. And I would assume up the road at the college that it has an embedded system. And so, but we've only really done that at the collegiate level, and because it's a big cost. And then you also have to think in 7 years, if you're maintaining it, you have track guy back there reapplying a top coat. And what used to be 100,000 is now about 150,000 for that. So you have to put that in your budget, because if you let this wearing course go too long, there's no point redoing it and you're not getting the life expectancy out of there. You should easily get 21 years out of a track surface, but that's going to involve what we call structural spray coats, where they go put this top system back on and repaint the track.
Can I just ask, is there an option to the crumb rubber? Or is that?
So some people, obviously people have concerns about crumb rubber. So we've worked in some communities like we can't, or what we call SBR rubber, we can't have recycled tires. So these more high performance systems, you see the black layer goes away. They're 100% EPDM rubber. So EPDM rubber has never been a tire, but it's still rubber. So there's no system out there that I'm aware of that has no form of rubber in it.
Is it pre or post consumer? It's virgin material.
Yeah, so the EPDM roofing rubber, the hose rubber, it's just byproduct that wasn't actually put out into the world, ground up and used in the track.
It's secondary use off of the production.
Thought I read somewhere there's a more environmentally friendly surface.
I don't know of any that don't have EPDM rubber in it, but I believe this one's bound by some kind of vegetable oil. This really top of the line one.
Where's that coming in a square yard to shock us?
I guess it'd probably be, my guess would be about 150. So triple. If we're talking synthetic turf, that technology changes probably weekly, monthly. Track surfacing's been pretty stable in the systems available for a while. There's even one lower system that this manufacturer just doesn't show, but when you see a black track, it doesn't have the red EPDM rubber on the top. So it's just more cost savings, but you need that wearing course. Otherwise, you're just not going to get the life out of it.
The one I heard about was Epic EPIQ track.
From Hellas out of Texas. Yeah, I don't know of any instance. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting.
Go ahead.
Just to be the terrible business administrator in the room. the less super costly, questionable durability, super high maintenance potential things that we can choose, the better. Sorry for launching in with that, but just wanted to.
That's the whole part of the kickoff, the design phase. We hash out the details. We figure out what's best for the system. I wouldn't propose one of these super high-end systems at the municipal level because the athletes are still growing and these systems are firmer. They're meant to set Olympic records on. Your legs, your muscles, your bones are still developing. You want a more resilient system. You don't want to give them, this Olympic caliber track that a couple athletes are going to excel on, but the most are not going to benefit from it. So we don't feel it's appropriate at this level. But
my understanding is we're going straight up Mondo World Championship surface, but
that's what I hear from every coach. Yeah, everyone wants
that's
Mondo.
not what we're getting. I don't know if I want to be a part of this project. I guess with all that said and done, I think my question, I think more goes to just the porous versus the non-porous surfaces from your perspective.
So the asphalt or concrete base, it likes to breathe. So if you do a porous system, you let that vent. You have less opportunity for air pockets or say some oil releases late from the asphalt and create a bubble. So while we haven't seen it, we've heard about it. So the porous system gets the water off the surface better, but if the field's graded, if the track is graded properly, there shouldn't be an issue. Again, the Binin 100, which is their porous system, Recordton's another brand. They all make this porous BSS 100 equivalent, and it's probably the most widely used surface. It's economical, it's durable, it's going to be,
So you'd recommend porous over non-porous is what you're saying?
unless you want to go to an embedded system to the next level. Yeah, for those lower systems.
Would that be the Binin 200? Is that the
Binin 200? Let's see. I just want to speak. The Binin 200 is encapsulated, so that's non-porous. The Binin 300 would be your embedded level. I think Agawam is 300.
Is that Joe typing?
That's porous.
Oh, okay.
So while they look at that, I guess one of my questions to you guys is what, just from a design perspective, is there anything that's exciting to you about where the site, the things where it's going to be? Like what would excite you about that facility and making it a really attractive facility?
It's kind of a clean slate. Even though there's remnants of an old track, it just is going to totally transform the area. The project encompasses everything new. Typically, a lot of what we deal with now is replacements, and you're stuck with a footprint. You're stuck with the shapes and constraints of the site. Now there are some constraints out there on the west side, but I see this as a full project. It's all new. I don't know. It's a bigger project than it would be one of our bigger projects. And I know there's a question about that. And we only take on so many big projects a year. And this would be one that we would love to take on.
So where are you citing this? Because you mentioned remnants of an old track.
Yes. So northwest corner.
That was one of my questions. If they actually attended the on-site meeting that
They didn't.
We did not.
And you're citing it in the wrong place.
Football field over there?
No, right behind that.
Back of the building.
Right behind that.
They're the business administration offices. It's a Morton building, steel structure, clad building. Just behind that, there's a fresh area. And our vision is to bring the natural grade of the field beyond.
So up above where the old track was.
No.
Well, the old track
South
is
south
out there.
So here is where I thought you were talking.
Oh, so you're looking at.
This is the old track.
Yep.
So down here is where we're talking about?
In that area, yeah.
It's a clean slate too.
It's still a clean
It is
slate.
Well,
a
it's
clean
it's
slate.
even cleaner. So no, we did not attend the pre-bid. We called because it wasn't mandatory. It's just, it's
Yeah, we got
vacation time and things like that. And we just didn't have the resources.
Well, that makes me happy because one concern I had was parking.
Mhm.
It's going to be your premier facility, regional facility. It's going to get use and parking where we were looking at the.
I think it alleviates a lot of your wetlands concerns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it does. And who knows, maybe we can be outside of an upland review area, maybe not. But yeah, proximal parking would be very good.
Yeah.
A lot better, let's put it that way.
It's like a 200 yards rather than half a mile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that the main concern with not going with that northwestern corner?
There were the restrooms, which are, for the purpose of the track in that field are located on the back of the new central office. So it's really restrooms, accessibility and parking.
Which would keep us out of, having to build new infrastructure and maybe out of the filed sub-bid area.
Avoid that.
Proximity to internet system.
Yeah.
to electricity,
Everything, yeah.
all of
It just brings the whole complex
Sure.
much closer to where everything else is on the campus.
it. But you're right, that was the old track.
Yeah. And
60s. and
No, it's not the old track. It's still my current track.
yeah,
It's the grass track, sorry.
The Brian Gill
Yeah.
track.
Yeah,
we went-
Memorial. It's gonna kill me.
walked out around the
Yeah.
back of the school. So.
Joe, did you have any questions?
I think my one additional question is just given the probable budget for this project, the fact that we want to get the track, the field, the lighting, amenities, what are your thoughts going in as far as how you'll need to approach value engineering, just the initial design and setting expectations and being able to manage that with us as we move through the process?
Well, I think the best way, well, obviously at the onset of the project, we will work with you to develop a program that we believe meets your budget. And incorporates as much as we can, and we'll let you know, well, yeah, you want lights, but you only have this amount of money. Lights may not be able to happen at this time, but we would design them, base bid, whatever infrastructure goes underground, and then incorporate bid alternates into the project. That's been the best way to do it. Prices come in favorable, you select bid alternates, and if they don't, at least you're prepared to put them in at a later date.
Yeah, I would say right along those lines is your least expensive cost will be us. The expensive cost is the construction side of things. Design the project out how you want it designed with an eye toward, okay, maybe we have to alternate bid these things. Welcome to Massachusetts bid law. Your alternates have to go in order. We're very familiar with that one, so we're going to spend some time in figuring out what alternates make sense. You go to another state, you can put 10 alternates and pick which ones you want, not in Massachusetts. But yeah, you guys probably you have a budget in mind. The first thing we're going to figure out is, well, what can we get for that budget and where do we have to shift? Value engineering should not be done at 50%, 70%, 100%. Value engineering needs to start like tomorrow, literally, to understand. Let's set the game plan here so we understand, and there's no, we'll probably have disagreements because we'll say one thing, you'll say one thing, and then we'll work it all out and try and figure it out. But once we understand the budget, we're not going to give you we're going to design to that budget the best we can, and then we'll have some hard decisions to make around the table. And then you guys will get a project, no doubt about it. Will it be phased? Maybe. But I would say where I was going with that one is design it all so that you can always go back and say, hey, we're going to do these improvements. We didn't get to them. We didn't get a track and field when we built the high school. Maybe that was a conversation that was had years ago. But we'll get it later on down the road. Now we're down the road. So design it all now.
Rob?
Thank you very much.
Kate, you're all set? All right, do you guys have any last remarks, close up?
I guess I would just say, based upon your schedule, I'm assuming you're going to you're gonna have some decisions to make, so you can set a consultant loose, be ready to go. We are ready to go. So if you were to call in a week, if you were to call tomorrow, we would quickly be able to scope things out and understand it, or come to a scoping meeting, do whatever we need to do. Our team is at the ready, so that's what we can live you with.
Thank you so much for
Thanks a
coming
lot.
out.
Yeah, thank you for making the trip.
Appreciate it. I'll walk you out and I'll be back.
Okay.
Anybody want a hard copy? Because I hate to hand them out because then everybody doesn't look at
Yeah, I
it.
think we
Electronic
do.
copy?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Take
Thanks.
back at
Now that I've seen you and heard you talk.
a couple of minutes after
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, can you hear us? Joe Bergeron?
Yes, now I can. Yep.
Okay, we were just taking like a 5-minute recess. I'm sorry. I think that's what happened before too.
All right, so.
No problem at all. I'm here for all the good stuff.
Thanks.
All right, so it's 4:02 and we're gonna resume and move into the deliberation section of this meeting. We have not been deliberating during the recess, but I did talk to John just about process. And I think the way I'd like to do this, if it's okay with everyone, is to start with a motion, like we did in the initial selection process, and then have discussion, and then have a vote. If folks would prefer to take a few minutes to do some scoring and to talk about each of the questions, then we could do it that way.
Brian, are you back with us?
Calling Brian. You want to text him and see?
I don't know if I
Yeah,
have.
I don't have his info.
We're told him a couple of minutes after 4, so we may still be.
Okay.
And we could certainly go ahead and I would be ready to make a motion if folks are agreeable to that. And then when Brian joins, he can join the conversation.
Okay.
I would move that we enter negotiations with CHA.
Oh, here's Brian. Perfect timing.
Hey, Brian. Good.
Perfect timing, Brian. Thank you.
Brian, we were just discussing, which is what we did at the last meeting, making a motion around who to move forward with and then have that motion seconded and then the conversation would branch from there. So I was just starting to make a motion that we enter into negotiations with CHA Sports to serve as the designer of the Mount Greylock track and field project.
All right.
And I would like to second that if possible.
Sure. So we have a motion made and seconded. And just again, as a reminder of process, if we have a unanimous vote or a 75% in favor vote, this committee is approved to move forward into negotiation. If we have a split vote, then it needs to go back to the finance subcommittee, I believe, or the school committee.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
one or the other.
So that's where we stand. So let's have discussion. I'd like to invite our OPM representatives to begin this conversation, if that's all right with the
Sure.
committee. Okay.
I'll make a couple comments in there and you can follow. So SLR obviously didn't attend the site visit. They didn't know where the field was sited. That was a significant disadvantage for them in their presentation is, a lot of the issues that they were talking about weren't really pertinent for the site that was here. I think that CHA Gutlow has, I don't want to say infinite, has a lot of knowledge of the site and the survey. I think they have existing plans. They're familiar with the well system. I think Gutlow, it gives them a big advantage to get up and get going quickly. Also with the permitting process, I think Gutlow helps them significantly. They obviously have vast experience with track and field construction. The fact that the one gentleman is an agronomist by trade was fantastic, I thought. The only thing that gave me a little pause is Brian's question about porous versus non-porous. We heard two different things. We heard CHA say no, and we heard SLR say they would go porous. And I don't know what the right answer is, so.
Brian, do you have any insight or experience in what the best answer for that actually is?
Well, I think it's a little interesting that they did say porous, and yet the tracks that I've been on from them have been the non-porous tracks.
Huh. The tracks you've been on?
Their Agawam track, I believe, is a non-porous track,
Interesting.
if I remember correctly. And maybe just because of money, maybe they had more money. Yeah, I mean, obviously Williams is a non-porous track. It's a more of an embedded track. That is, it's a better track. I don't know if it's one that we can afford. But plenty of people make porous tracks and they still put them in New England. I just know it's not preferred. I mean, if money is not an option, it's not preferred.
Thank you for that.
One of my major things with CHA is that they recognize that we could have, reduced irrigation for the, they're going to lead into the project saying that as long as we can manage it during the dry months, that we can get away with having little to no irrigation. They seem like a little bit more of a organized fashion for their presentation. They're a lot more local. I mean, definitely with Gutlow's, presence in the community, and them only being 50 minutes away, and a lot of experience in Williamstown. That's a huge advantage they have. SLR, they're 2 hours away. They've done some projects in the area, but they're only their local experiences with wetlands mitigation for DOT projects. So it seems a little bit more minimal for the Williamstown state of mind, anyway.
I was, I don't want to interrupt either of you two.
I think we're good.
I was really taken by CHA's putting in print and on screen for anybody watching this over 400 high school.
400 natural grass fields within 25 years. That's impressive.
Yeah, that to me was a real one of those things that just catches you, and the fact that one of the presenters, Ed, I believe, has been doing this for 3 decades.
Yeah, we have 30 years from Ed and 25 years from John.
Yeah, and it started their sports division, and they are, I think they said 20 people dedicated in the athletics in the sports division.
And that's 1,400 people firm wide. That's, they have information base, which is great.
So the matrix they put up there too, they had a couple different selection matrices, based on cost and function. I thought that was really powerful. Tools they had.
Yeah.
We heard from Joe.
Yep, I agree with everything that's been said. I also think we would end up, if for some strange reason we ended up with SLR, we'd be in good hands and they'd be a very capable firm. But CHA just checked off every box a little bit darker than the rest, and they certainly had invested in the local presence, coming to the site meeting, bringing Gutlow in as a part of their team. In ways that I think will be very helpful.
We are very familiar with OTO. We do a lot of business with them. That's their geotech engineer. So I have a level of confidence in OTO, just FYI.
Rob?
I'll go now. I pretty much agree with everything that's said. SLR obviously didn't quite do their homework good enough. That was a turnoff for me. CHA hit all the right boxes. They have local presence. Irrigation is a huge topic here. I've worked with Gutlow many times before, and that's where I would look at it.
Brian, we asked you for your expert advice on porous versus non-porous or your expert experience. Did you have any thoughts outside of that conversation?
No, I think I agree with everything that's been said. I don't have to rehash it. I think just from a design perspective, just like who would I rather work with? And just subjectively, I think the CHA guys just appeal to me more. Just from a design perspective, I think it'd be fun to work with them and see what we could create.
Thank you.
Great.
I know you're the chair, but
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think Brian touched on something that, the CHA folks just seemed more excited and more comfortable with the project, which speaks to their experience.
Yeah, good.
SLR folks seemed a little bit more nervous about, what they were presenting, and they didn't quite display the confidence. And, the CHA, I was a little put off by CHA's emphasis on synthetic in their presentation, but they did talk more about natural grass when they were here. I liked the SLR, focus on the hydraulics and all the potential for water, which is something that we've talked about. But I think, those are things that we can pursue with Guntlow, and CHA just as well. So I would also, prefer to work with CHA. Okay. Is there any more discussion? All right, let's vote. So the motion is to move forward into contract negotiations with CHA. Let's do roll call starting in the room.
McCandless, aye.
Okay.
Green, aye. Moving to the screen, Brian
Gil, aye.
and Joe.
Bergeron, aye.
Great. That motion is, or that vote is unanimous, and we have the authority to move forward. So how are we going to do that? Is that done through the OPM, or is that done through, Joe's away, so we don't want to make him do that.
I think it's as simple as me sending them an email and requesting a cost proposal.
Okay.
I think the RFP is very clear that, if we can't reach terms with them, that we retain the option to, go to number 2, so.
Great.
Yeah.
And then, so since we only have 2, and we were actually charged with the ranking is obvious, but CHA is our first ranked and SLR is our second ranked. And does everybody feel comfortable moving forward with SLR if we don't reach a positive negotiation with CHA?
Do we need a new motion that actually
Ranks them.
ranks them as 1 and 2 to formally gauge? Or
It might be a good idea. Yep.
I would move,
Do you want to just revise your motion and then
Sure.
Rob can?
sure, I would revise the original motion that we move forward with negotiations with our number 1 choice, CHA, but would rank SLR number 2 and would, sorry, this is so clunky, and would advocate that we have 2 companies with whom we could negotiate, CHA first and SLR second, if negotiations are not successful with CHA. And if somebody wants to wordsmith that, Joe, a little less clunky.
I think we can probably go as simple as I'll move that we rank CHA first and SLR second, and authorize the superintendent with Skanskin support to negotiate with CHA, and if unsuccessful with SLR.
Thank you. That's one of 100 reasons I miss you on a daily basis.
We all do.
All right, so,
Despite my earlier comment about Santa Fe, I really do miss work.
We understand.
so Joe is moving to rank CHA first and SLR second to authorize the superintendent with the OPM to negotiate, and if not successful, to move forward with SLR. Okay, is that pretty much it?
Nicely done.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so Joe has made a motion, but we didn't vote on the previous one. Now we're really messed up.
I think we did.
We did vote on the previous one.
Oh, we did.
And it was
Thank you, and it was unanimous. Okay,
Correct.
so now we have a second motion. And who would like to second that?
I would love to second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on this motion? Which will override the previous motion.
Brian, are you comfortable going forward with each of these? You know, we clearly have a number one choice, but are you comfortable moving forward with a number two, should we need to?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on plenty of tracks actually from both companies that I didn't even know who had done them. So, and they've both been fantastic. So I don't have any qualms that we're going to get a great product out of either company.
Okay, thank you for that.
That's great. Thanks. All right, is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll start on the screen. Brian?
Bergeron,
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Bergeron, aye.
Brian?
Gill eye.
Rob?
Winooki.
McCandless, aye.
Green eye. Okay, so that motion is unanimous, and that's the one that we will go with. Great. Is there any other business that we need to attend to?
Sure.
Let me just double check the agenda to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, yes, you motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor? Start in the room.
McCandless, aye.
Winooki.
Green eye on the screen. Brian
Gill eye.
and Joe.
Bergeron, aye.
Great, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
4:19 PM.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John and Aaron. Thank you for making this a good process.
Travel safe,
Joe.
Joe.
Do you guys want these place cards for anyone?
Yeah, I can take.